What's up guys? Today I want to do a complete guide on how to buy from Alibaba, how to look for the right manufacturers, how to get the best pricing, how to get the best quality, all the way to inspections, to shipping, how to pay, all that good stuff on today's video. Now I know a lot of you out there probably heard all the scary parts about sourcing, how you can get scammed, how you can overpay, how you can get bad quality products, and get that shipped into Amazon or wherever you're going and get terrible reviews. Obviously, a poor quality product can break your Amazon business just like that. It's also scary making that big investment. You want to make sure you're doing it right, make sure you're being efficient with your money, and making sure you're paying in the best way to protect yourself. So today I'm going to go through all that and break it down step by step for you. That way sourcing becomes easier and not so scary of an adventure. Before we get started, guys, my name is Cameron James. I just want to welcome in anybody new to this channel. I've been selling on Amazon for over 3 years now. I do this for a full-time living. My first year I did $1.3 million in sales, which was a fabulous and crazy ride. But this channel is all about sharing my journey, sharing everything I learned about Amazon FBA, and giving back to people who want to start this business just because I'm a normal guy and this created a completely unnormal life for me. So it's an incredible opportunity that I want to share with others. Otherwise, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. That way you do not miss a thing. And then let's get straight to the good stuff. Okay guys, so the first thing I want to talk about is Alibaba.com and what it is, just in case you haven't heard of it yet. So Alibaba.com is essentially the Amazon for suppliers, right? So if we're trying to sell on Amazon or you're trying to source a good for maybe Shopify or whatever you're doing, Alibaba is where thousands and thousands of suppliers all list their company, their products on one site. That way you can scroll through, talk to many at once, and try to find the product you're trying to source and put your brand on. That way you can sell it yourself. So this is actually where I get about 90% of my suppliers for my Amazon business, just because there's so many on here. I get to talk to so many manufacturers to find the best quality product and find the best manufacturer pretty much in the world to source my products and get my brand name on it and go ahead and put that up on Amazon and then eventually Shopify when I start building my brand out. So if you're trying to start an Amazon business and trying to get a private label product, this is where you're going to want to put your time and effort into. This is the platform you're going to want to learn and master. That way you go ahead and can find your suppliers and get started with your business. Now, if you've heard anything about Alibaba, you've probably heard some bad things, right? Whether it's scams, overpriced, bad manufacturing. And that is true if you don't know what you're doing. So let me give you a quick story here. When I first started my Amazon journey back in 2017, we started on Alibaba and we tried to sell a fidget spinner. Now this fidget spinner is a huge fad. It was going on. It was selling a ton on Amazon during that moment. Well, we didn't know what we were doing on Alibaba. We got on there. We pretty much hired the first manufacturer we found for fidget spinners, and the quality was absolutely terrible. It was a trading company. They just put together a quick table and had employees start putting together fidget spinners that were just really bad quality. The spin time was terrible. The pieces were falling out. The logos were badly printed on it. And then this led to terrible reviews on Amazon. I think we're at 2.5 stars, which is absolutely terrible for a product. And it absolutely killed any momentum we had. We're selling like 10 a day at this point, and that totally killed all momentum. It's because we picked a bad manufacturer. We did not know what we were doing. So yes, if you don't know what you're doing, you can get scammed. If you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna get a bad quality product. You're gonna find a bad manufacturer. You're probably gonna overpay. So this is your first step in learning, pretty much how to avoid my mistakes, and that's why I'm doing this video today. So if you're asking yourself, is Alibaba right for my business or the right place to get products? Yes and no. Yes, if you know what you're doing, and no, if you think you just go on here and find the first manufacturer you want and just buy a product and think it's gonna be a great quality, then this isn't right for you. It takes a little bit of work. It's a skill, just like product research is. It's just as hard as that. I tell my students all the time, you can find the best product in the world during product research, but that means nothing if you find the wrong supplier for your product. So this is just as important as a task and a skill as anything else in your Amazon or private label business. So to stop my preaching here, guys, I next want to move on into how to use Alibaba, how to find the right suppliers, and I'm going to do this in 7 steps for you guys. That way you guys know exactly what process to take and learn everything from my experiences and how I use Alibaba all the way to how to get your product shipped into Amazon's warehouse and everything like that. So the first step I want to talk about is how to use Alibaba, right? How to use it to find your suppliers and kind of how to navigate the interface here. So if we go to Alibaba .com right here. We can see the screen. It's pretty much like I said before. It's the Amazon of suppliers, right? So you type in a product on Amazon, you're going to find it with a ton of different brands. So when you type in your product on Alibaba, what you're going to find is a bunch of suppliers that all make and manufacture that product. Now, just like Amazon, when there's bad brands out there, bad quality products, there's bad quality manufacturers on Alibaba. So that's kind of what I want to talk about here is how to navigate, how to make sure you know what you're looking for on Alibaba to give you the best chance to succeed and find the best manufacturers. So the first thing I like to do when I'm on Alibaba is actually hit this little tab right up here, products and suppliers. So when I type in our product here, you're going to find a bunch of different products from the same manufacturers and different manufacturers. So if a manufacturer has, we're going to use cake stands for an example here today. So if a manufacturer has a bunch of different cake stands, well, you're going to see maybe 5 or 10 of their listings for cake stands. But if we do suppliers, we're just going to find that supplier one time. So this allows us to look at a bunch of different suppliers at one time without us getting drowned out by one manufacturer with a ton of cake stand listings. So if we type in cake stand right here, let's go ahead and push enter. So now we can see there's a bunch of different manufacturers that pop up for cake stands that are selling different cake stands. And we can see the different types right here. So we have tons of different options, manufacturers who just develop cake stands, which is kind of mind-boggling for me. But we can see this page is very busy. There's a lot going on. And so I want to talk about what you should pay attention to and what you shouldn't pay attention to. That way you're being the most efficient with your time and also finding the best manufacturers. So the first two things I want to talk about is trade insurance and verified supplier. So trade insurance, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, all this means is that the supplier on Alibaba has signed up with trade insurance through Alibaba. And so when you pay using Alibaba, which you could do, I'll talk about different ways you can pay a little bit later too. But if you say you send money through Alibaba and you're buying a product, Alibaba will actually hold this money for you to protect you from potential scammers on Alibaba itself. So if a company has trade insurance on Alibaba, they're most likely not here to scam, right? Because that kind of defeats the purpose. It's like buying insurance that's going to protect the people you're scamming. It doesn't really make sense. So just by clicking this, we're finding all the manufacturers that have trade insurance on Alibaba, and that will protect you more against scammers and finding good, reputable manufacturers. Next is this little tag called verified. So what verified is when one of these companies, these manufacturers that are using Alibaba, actually hire Alibaba to have a third-party inspection company come out, or maybe even an Alibaba inspection company come out and check out the actual, the facility, right? The offices, the manufacturing, the warehouses, all that good stuff to make sure that this is a real manufacturer. And they pretty much do an inspection to say this person's real, their quality is high, here's photos to prove it, which we'll talk about a little later too. So I like right off the bat to hit these two right here because there's no reason not to. There's so many manufacturers on Alibaba. There's no reason not to hit both of these to make sure that you're protecting yourself from potential scammers, just because the scammers aren't going to go this far just to rip you off. There's too many costs, there's too many expenses to get this far in the process and to get approved. The third thing I'm looking at right here is how many years have they been on Alibaba. Again, this is another fraud protection and detection kind of data point you're looking at. So if they've been on Alibaba for 8 years, they most likely can't scam people for 8 years on Alibaba and still be on here. They'd probably be shut down, or they'd be a different company and they'd be a lot less in maturity for years because they'd have to start new companies, relist, and they start all over from zero again. Also, why I think this is important is because if they've been on Alibaba for 8 years, they've dealt with e-commerce sellers like me and potentially you, and so they know exactly how to communicate with you, right? They probably have more English-speaking, representatives. They know what needs to go into an Amazon box and packaging. They're used to, printing those labels. They're used to, working with freight forwarders to make sure that the master carton labels go in for Amazon. And so they probably have a lot of experience, and it's going to be a really easy transition for you, to work with this manufacturer because they work with other sellers along that path as well. Okay, guys, next I want to look at main products here. So main products is important because, suppliers, there's so many suppliers, especially in China and around the world, and they usually have one or two products that they're the best at, right? Like specifically the best at, so if I use, yoga mats exclusively for this example. Not a few in this example, actually, there'd be a crap ton of manufacturers for yoga mats that exclusively do like 95% of their manufacturing just in yoga mats. So, if I'm, selling yoga mats or want to buy some for my private label brand, I want to find those companies exclusively because they have the most buying power for that type of material. They have, the best quality because, they're used to making these over and over and over again, that they're probably the best in the world at making quality yoga mats. Now, say, I'm looking for elastic bands, exercise bands. And the manufacturer makes these, but they make 95% yoga mats. Well, maybe their price is a little higher in the elastic bands because they don't buy as much material for that. They're not as good as making it because they don't make it as much as they do yoga mats. So even if they're in the same, family, right? It's all exercise equipment. You still want to find a supplier that mainly makes your product. So I hope that makes sense here, guys. And let's look at a few just to, make a little more sense out of this. So this one is, loaf pan, baguette tray, sheet pan, bakery, trolley, bakeware. So that's in the family, right? That's in the family. That's okay. If we go to the next one here, we see ceramic dinnerware, ceramic kitchenware, ceramic vase, flower pot, ceramic bathroom. So, in the family here. Next, bread bin, raised bed, garden lawn. So this one automatically out for me. Third, kitchen equipment, refrigerators, fast food equipment, probably out for me. Ceramic tableware, so I like that one. Bathroom accessory, okay here. Stationery products, printing and packaging, promotional gifts, so not here. So going back to the top here, this is great because it's in the family here, and I can see they have 3 different types, and they look pretty nice. Ceramic dinnerware, this is pretty good here. We'll go down, this is where I'm getting a little sketched out, garden lawn edge, flower pot canister, and everything like that. So, obviously we have a ton of, different ones we could go through here and start looking at, but that's kind of what I'm looking for to make sure that, is this product I'm looking at, are they at least in the family, or are they making these specifically? Yoga mats is an easier example because yoga mats is such a huge industry that there's manufacturers making this ton. Maybe cake pans or cake dishes aren't as popular as that, so you might have to work around a little bit here depending on the scenario. But you guys are smart, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, and the point I'm trying to get across here is that you want to find the experts for your niche, for your product. So if we go back up here, the next thing I want to talk about, since we talked about, different products and why these companies might be making, garden products and bathroom products and kitchen products all at the same time, well, that leads me back to the name of the company. So in the name here, we can tell a few things from that. The first part of the name, usually, I'm not, I don't say I'm a 100% expert, in Chinese culture and Chinese business, but I understand how the names work a bit so you can get a general idea of what to look for and what not to look for. And the first one is the location. So they usually have the location of where the company was founded and created right in the beginning of the title. So this one's in Shenzhen. One thing to look for here, location might not matter too much, but if I do look for something in location, I'm looking for a location nearest to the coast, so it'd be the eastern coast of China. That way they're closer to the ports. That helps lower cost for shipping when it comes to, say they're in central China and they have to, deliver the goods all the way to the port. So I went ahead and pulled up a map here, guys. That way I didn't butcher this and make a fool out of myself. So Shenzhen, where that's in, is in the Guangdong province. Again, my Chinese is not very good. So that we know that that port is very near the coast there. And I know the Hong Kong port and the Shenzhen port are very, very big. Same thing with Shanghai port. So we're looking for cities and locations along this coast right here. That's going to help us to, keep our costs down low for shipping out of central China. And we do have manufacturers, in central China. It just adds a little extra cost. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. But if you have the option, this is what you're looking for along the coastline right here. So I just want to pull that up for your guys' reference. You can find these on Google Images and Google searches just like that. Next is the company name. So this is the company name right here. And then industry is usually, what they're what they're known for, what product, they're known for. So this one, ceramic industry, can mean a few different things here, which I'll talk about here in a second. And then company limited, this just means that they are, the company type in China. Again, you can research that a little more on your own if you'd like. But what I'm looking for here is obviously the location. The name is not so much important to me. You can name it whatever you want. That's fine with me. But in these names, you can usually tell if a company is very specific to the type of product you want. So, ceramic, if you're looking for ceramic goods, this is what you want to see. Third is you want to look to see if it's a trading company or an actual manufacturer itself, or even both. So there'll be little clues, in these to, really see if they're a trading company or an actual manufacturer. So we can see right here, Materials Co. Materials is a pretty generic term, right? So it's like they're talking about, not being specific to any one thing. Like we go up here, porcelain, right? So they're focusing on porcelain products. That's great. But with materials down here, we can see they have stationery products, printing and packaging, promotional gift, party and event supplies, sports, and outdoors. So they're kind of all over the place, right? So this kind of gives me a clue that they're more likely a trading company. And so what a trading company is and why you might want to watch out for that is because these companies could be middlemen themselves. So they could be, very good with dealing with U.S. customers, and they could be just an office building somewhere in China that are just getting products from another manufacturer, upcharging them for you. I'm not saying trading companies are always bad. It's just this, you just need to know how they work in general. That way you know what to expect and you know what you're dealing with and you kind of know what's going on. Now, a manufacturer and a trading company, they could be both too. So this is kind of the ideal situation in my head because, if they're a trading company, they probably have experience dealing with US customers, have English representatives, and know how to deal with, clients and customers, especially in the e-commerce space. But they're also a manufacturer, so they get the best, quality, the best, product pricing. They're the experts in the field. You get to talk to people right there to customize your product and do everything you need there. And then you just have a manufacturer itself, which doesn't mean they can't have good representation or anything like that. Or they could just be a manufacturer alone, which again is it's kind of what I prefer, or kind of a mix of both. I usually don't prefer a trading company just alone, but doesn't mean they can't get you good products and excellent customer service. And we'll talk about a few other things that kind of alert you to that as we get deeper and deeper into this. So next is country and region. So China is obviously going to be a huge, probably 99% of the manufacturers on here. Most people know that when dealing with Alibaba. But if you want to go ahead and look at different countries, you can go up here. All I'm seeing is Hong Kong and China here. Some products probably have, I've seen India, Vietnam, and other places around the world on Alibaba. So that is a possibility if that's something you're looking for. Next is total revenue. So we like to see, this isn't make or break a company, but we like to see a higher revenue on Alibaba just because this means they do a lot of business on Alibaba. They're used to it. They're probably a pretty reputable company. But again, it's not a make or break for me. Next, top 3 markets. This is important to me. So I like to see North America as one of their top markets because that means they're used to, American standard quality. If they do a lot of business in Africa or South America, they could probably get away with a little bit less quality just because you know how stingy Americans are with goods and quality and paying a higher price, so they expect, top tier quality. And so, if they deal with North America or Europe or these countries right here, I have a good, I have a good feeling that they probably know what kind of quality I'm going to expect out of their goods and their materials, which is, what you want to have a 4 or 5 star product on Amazon. So in the last 6 months, they've had 95 transactions, over $80,000 plus. So this is good to see they had recent activity when it comes to doing business on Alibaba. Response rate's always good to see, a high response rate. That way you can talk to them. So to actually talk to these manufacturers, you can hit contact supplier here. You can chat with them Alibaba, but I want to show you a different method that I like to use to contact many at once. And so what I do when I like a company for that type of product, I go ahead and hit favorites right here. So when I hit favorites here, it's going to go ahead and add to my favorites, which I can go back later and look at and save. It's pretty much like a folder of manufacturers. So you can look at that up right up here once you're ready to look at that. What do I do first is I go through and I scroll through all these manufacturers and I kind of pick my favorites out. That way I have a big list at the end. So if I like this company, I go ahead and select right here, push OK, go down, select a few more. I actually go up and I try to select as many as I can that kind of fit my criteria of what I'm looking for. And so, I'll hit favorites down here. I'll hit favorites down here. Again, I'm going to do a little more research and digging in and making sure that these all fit, making sure they have, 3 years plus of experience at least. They're kind of in my realm of what I'm looking for main products. They've had recent transactions. And we can even look into the company itself a little further. So we can have, this right here, and we can see, more about their business, more photos here of their company. Again, this looks like a trading company to me when I see this at first. So I'm going to keep going down until I see, this looks like a trading company. This is the showroom for their products. I want to see the actual, manufacturing shop, the warehouse, to see if they're actually making these products or not themselves. And so this will tell you a lot more, about this. So manufacturer or trading company, that's good. So maybe they do make all these products. They just like to display them like that. That's totally fine. You can see certifications right here about the company. So, if you have certain qualifications that you're looking for in a product, you can see if they have those here or ask about them later, which I'll talk about. You can see the province right here. You can see the total number of employees. So this isn't really a huge deal to me. I like kind of a medium-sized manufacturer to make sure they have the flexibility to work with me. The bigger companies, maybe they're just used to working with huge brands that they're not going to mess with me. So that's kind of, it kind of scares me away a little bit if I see 500 to 1,000 employees. Maybe they won't respond to me. Maybe they don't have the flexibility to work with me. So I like a medium company here. We go down and we can see more about the products. We can see, equipment, certification right here. Again, this is coming back down to, what you're looking for in your product and everything like that. So you can see main markets as well. So this is how I found out who my favorites are. So I'm doing a deeper dig on here to make a favorite to talk to later. Okay. So step 2, guys, I want to talk about how you actually vet a supplier to see if they are the one. So next what you do is you want to contact them. So we go to favorite suppliers right here. We can see all the manufacturers we favorited right here. So this is how we start the conversation. So I'm going to click this guy right here to select them all, hit contact supplier. Now this is where you put your RFQ, so your request for quotation. So how this works, you want to look professional. You want to look like a, maybe a little bigger company than you are, or at least, make sure that you're just, a real quotation that they're not wasting their time with. And how I do that is a well-written RFQ. So I can see here, this is my cheat sheet, which you can grab in the link down below. And it has an example on there for you. Obviously, you got to put in your information here and make it for you. But what I do here is I copy this right here. And I go ahead, and this isn't going to copy perfectly just because of the HTML. But I go down here, I put this right here, I make sure the spacing's good and everything like that. I can see right here that the spacing gets all messed up because it's on a PDF. But I've gone here, and what I'm doing is, I'm asking my questions, all the questions you need to ask to see if they're a good manufacturer. And then when they respond, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move them from, Alibaba's Messenger, because it's not very good to communicate back and forth. It's very slow. I'm going to move them over to email and have them respond via email. And then eventually I'm going to move them over to Skype instant messaging, or maybe WeChat. WeChat works just as well for some suppliers and for, others that prefer that. But what I'm doing here is I'm trying to create a faster dialogue to talk to more manufacturers to get the answers I need to see if they're the ones I want to work with. Because, I'm looking for good English. I'm looking for, how good are they at answering my questions. I'm trying to get more information out of them. That way I can vet and get it down to maybe 2 or 3 suppliers out of the 15 or 20 I message. If you do this just via email or Alibaba's, messaging center, it's going to take months, because if you ask one question, it's going to take a whole night for them to respond because you're probably on a different time zone than them. But at least on Skype Instant Messenger, I can give them a whole log of questions as I'm thinking about them throughout the day, and they can go ahead and respond when they're ready, send pictures, talk faster, and everything like that. So to keep all this information straight, what I'm doing is I'm creating an Excel sheet or a Google sheet, and I'm keeping track of all the questions I ask and what I'm looking for, along with my pricing, any shipping costs, what it's cost to, product packaging, and making sure that I'm logging that on an Excel sheet so I can make my final decision after that. So step 3, after you start the conversation, after you start talking and getting used to talking to these manufacturers, which takes some time, I am then going to pick maybe 2 or 3 suppliers out of that 15 or 20 or however it may be that are my favorites that I want to work with. And you may be asking me, how do I know for sure? You have a good gut feeling for it. Obviously, the pricing's got to be fair. The quality of the conversation's got to be up there. They got to fit all your criteria that you're kind of looking for. Don't expect them to fit 100% of it. Don't expect them to get everything, that you're saying. You got to ask questions a few more times than you'd like to, just because English isn't their first language and it's something you're just gonna have to work through. So just know that it's not perfect, but you'll get a good understanding of who is good and who is not. And most of the people that are not drop off anyways because they get too lazy to respond to all my questions. I really grill them with questions to make sure that they're the ones I want to work with. So step 3, guys, since we now have 2 or 3 suppliers we'd like, is to get samples. So this is important because it's super important to feel these products in your hand, to feel the quality, to feel what you're about to sell. And so what I do is I pick 2 or 3 of the top suppliers, get samples from them with all everything included. that I want. Maybe they have different packaging type that I'm going to get examples of. Maybe they have different sizes or colors that I'm, thinking about getting. So this is the time where I get all those products sent to me. And this is where I usually make the final decision of who to work with, whose product I really liked, whose, just kind of didn't feel right or not what I'm looking for exactly. And then moving on to step 4, which is getting the best price possible. Now, negotiation is part of Alibaba. It's part of, the manufacturer versus buyer kind of experience. Now, with that said, you can't push too hard here. Both parties have got to win. So what I usually do, if I pick my best, suppliers, say their prices, $1 higher than the rest of the suppliers that I, really didn't want to work with, but I really want them, but it's just a little out of the price range. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and ask the supplier, like, hey guys, I really want to work with you. You guys seem to have the highest quality product and the highest quality service, and I really want to make a long-term relationship work with you guys. The only thing that I'm seeing is that your price is a little higher than the other competition. Is there any way you could work with me on this? Now, usually they're very, very open to this conversation, and you can go back and forth and kind of see what they're willing to work with. Maybe you kind of meet in the middle or anything like that. Again, don't force their hand too much, right? If you're going to make a profit, great. It's better to, have a win-win. That way the long-term relationship really works out. Once you start buying lots and lots of goods, the quantity goes up and up. That's when you can kind of keep, pushing a little harder for some price cuts because you're doing a higher quality and you're a bigger customer. But at first, you need these suppliers. They don't really need you. They're already doing business. But, eventually you want to get to the point where they need you because you're such a big customer and you're selling a lot of goods. So make sure you're doing a fair negotiation and you're not pushing too hard, and forcing their hand or anything like that. I've heard some bad stories from those situations, which we can get into another time. But just know that's possible to negotiate a final price for your goods. Another thing you can negotiate is your MOQ. That's your minimum order quantity. Maybe it's 200, maybe it's 500. You can go back and forth with this. Each supplier is going to be a little different. Just know if you do a smaller MOQ that your price is probably going to be a little higher, which is, again, that's just something you're going to have to work with because they're making an exception for you to get your business going. And maybe you don't make as much profit at first, but you prove the product, which you later come back and buy a bigger order quantity where you can get a better price and make a higher profit margin on those goods on Amazon or wherever you might be selling those. So I know those are both negotiable, guys. It's on to step 5, that is placing the order. So placing the order, you can do this on Alibaba.com, through their system. You can send a wire, you can use a credit card, you can also use e-checking. So when I make a first order with the supplier, I usually don't do this. I usually go to PayPal first because they have better protection in my eyes. So what I do here, I go to the company, I say, hey, I'm willing to pay the fees for PayPal, but I'd really like to use it just to protect myself for this first order to make sure everything goes right. So then I actually use a credit card on top of that on PayPal. That way I can file a claim with PayPal if something goes wrong, and I could file a claim with a credit card company on PayPal if PayPal doesn't help me out there. Now you have trade assurance on Alibaba, and you can file claims there, but they're a Chinese-based company. I think, from what I've heard, they're not as friendly on claims. So that's why I like to use PayPal instead of Alibaba to first kind of go at it. Then eventually, once I trust the supplier, I'm going to move to wires via Alibaba. That way I'm protected by trade assurance throughout the whole process. And then I'm moving to wires which have less fees than using a credit card and using PayPal or even, credit cards on Alibaba. And then when I'm buying these goods, I'm actually only putting 30% down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them 30% of the total bill for them to start production. Then after production is done and everything checks out, which we're going to talk about in the next step, then I'm going to pay them the 70% before they ship the goods. This helps protect you, as a buyer. That way, if anything goes wrong during the process, at least it's only 30% instead of the whole 100%, and that they're eager to help you out and fix any issues because they're still down that 70%. On to step 6, guys, and that is inspecting the goods before you pay that final 70%. So this is very, very important. I've learned my lesson on this in so much time and so much money since the years I've been actually doing it. And that is getting an inspection service to go inspect the goods once they're done producing them in the Chinese manufacturer or wherever they're getting manufactured to see if they're up to quality and up to standards. So there are very expensive inspection companies that are top of the line for huge brands. But to get a good quality inspection in China, it's actually very, very affordable. I only pay $100 to $200 per inspection, and these companies will go into the manufacturer, they'll take a percentage of the goods, they'll go ahead and test these against your specifications of what you're looking for in a product. So making sure the barcode scans, which I had a little run-in with a very, very big order, and it saved me a lot of hassle and time. Making sure the cartons are durable, they'll do a drop test, making sure there's no funky smells going on with your packaging, making sure there's no missing items, making sure the packaging isn't ripped, and making sure that the product actually does what it says it's going to do before it gets into Amazon. That way you don't have any surprises, you don't have any bad reviews coming through, and you're stuck and screwed with 500 units in Amazon already that you can't fix or do much with. Now these inspection companies will send video reports back to you, PDFs, and everything like that. Then you can go back to your manufacturer before paying the 70% and getting those items shipped out and say, hey, can you guys take care of this or take care of that before we pay the 70%? This is definitely outside the fail guidelines of the inspection. Can you guys take care of this for me? Also, do know that not every product's gonna be perfect, guys. It's just, that's part of manufacturing. There's gonna be a defect rate, and that's gonna be okay. The inspection companies are good at letting you know if it's in the pass-fail range. Obviously, you're gonna know too if there's something that's very, very alarming that you need to get fixed regardless. But know that there's a little wiggle room here in defect rates. This is part of the process and everything like that. If you guys need inspection companies, I have a few in my cheat sheet. Again, I believe it's on page 14, step 3. If you guys get that cheat sheet, you guys can go use the companies that I've used in the past and check them out for yourself. On to the final and last step here, guys, step number 7. I know this has been a long one. I know it's been a lot of info. Hopefully you're taking notes. Make sure you go back and rewatch this, take a few more notes if you need to, or anything like that. If it's been helpful so far, guys, hit that like button for me. Yeah, spread this across YouTube. Get it out to people who need to see this. That way they're not getting scammed or anything like that. And also, if you got any other questions, hit them in the comments down below. I try to answer them all personally. And to help all you guys out, I know every situation is different. There's not a black and white to this whole industry. Every scenario, every person has a different kind of need or question. So hit those down in the comments below, and I'll try my hardest to get to that. Anyways, guys, on to number 7, and that is getting your product shipped over to an Amazon warehouse. Now, this whole subject, this how-to subject, could take a long time. I actually have other videos on my YouTube channel you can go check out to see the step-by-step process. But right now, I'm going to tell you exactly the overview of it, how it works, so you know exactly in your brain how this process kind of fits into the puzzle. So once your products are done and you paid the 70%, it's time to ship the products. So what you do here is either have your freight forwarder, which is just a company that ships goods internationally, or your supplier, which they usually have their own shipping process that they can just attach right to your bill for the product themselves. I actually prefer to use a freight forwarding company because it cuts the line between as the manufacturer, if you get a better deal on the goods, or they actually just charge you more in shipping to make up for that. So that's what I like to do. I like to get a freight forwarder, a separate company, which there's Chinese-based freight forwarders, which I use a couple, which I help in my student group and share those contacts there. Otherwise, there's Freightos.com, which is a USA-based freight forwarding company, or there's hundreds more that you can go search and vet out. And there's good services and bad services, unfortunately. So make sure you're doing your proper vetting and everything like that. But at first, it's okay to use your manufacturer to ship your goods just to kind of get a hang of it. But otherwise, as you scale, I suggest a freight forwarding company. After deciding who's shipping my product, what's going to happen here is that they should be experienced with this themselves. But after making your shipping plan, you're going to get what's called master carton labels and an address on that to give to your freight forwarder to stick on your cartons. And what's going to happen here is they're going to go ahead and take care of the whole process for you and get that shipped to the Amazon warehouse that Amazon chose during the shipment making process on your Seller Central. Now, I know there's a lot more to that, a lot more steps. Again, other YouTube videos that I have, but that's how that works. You should get a freight forwarder that's going to handle this whole process for you. And what you're going to do is you're going to pay them to take care of this all for you. So a couple tips here. So make sure you're paying your freight forwarder and getting your quotes in DDP. So what that means is delivered with duties paid. So that's important to make sure there's no hidden custom cost or tariffs or taxes on your goods when you're importing them. Because you don't want, this is a situation you don't want, is that when they get shipped over to Amazon and the guy delivering them is asking for a check for your custom fees and Amazon laughing and rejecting the whole shipment, you don't want that. Trust me, you don't want that. So you want to pay your duties up front to avoid that whole scenario. You also want to have your freight forwarder separate these amounts. So how much is it going to cost to ship it? How much are my duties? get 3 or 4 different quotes. That way you can kind of see what's going on. Is there any freight forwarder that's trying to, skip duties and possibly get me in trouble? Or are they properly kind of tracking my product and doing things the right way? Because you don't want your product stuck in customs or they're getting rejected at Amazon. So make sure you guys are doing your research there or asking questions in the comments down below. But that is it, guys. I know it was a long one. Make sure you watch it, bookmark it, whatever you have to do to learn this, because it is all very, very important. It's just as important as product research or any part of your business. Like I said before, if you find the perfect product, it means nothing if you don't find the perfect supplier. So please take that seriously and know this is a real skill you have to build to have a successful Amazon business. Otherwise, guys, that's it. Make sure you go check out my Instagram. I'm trying to post more behind the scenes, content, how do I run my business, everything like that in the stories, in the posts, even IGTV's coming along here soon. You can find that in the link down below, or it's CamronJames.co on Instagram. Otherwise, guys, make sure you're watching the next videos on my YouTube channel. Again, I got probably a YouTube channel for every step in this video, so you can get further and further down and really learn how this process works. So make sure you guys check those out. I spend a lot of time on them and try not to leave anything out for you guys. So that is it. We'll see you on the next one.